Well, how much dairy is too much? Well, it's still up for debate. For many Americans, about 10% of all calories come from dairy. Now, current guidelines are suggesting that 3 servings a day to get that necessary calcium and vitamin D and choose low-fat options. Experts say it's true that you can get those particular nutrients from plant sources. Dairy may be helpful for other cardiometabolic reasons.
Milk, for example, is linked pretty clearly to lower risk of high blood pressure, low risk of stroke, and cheese, and especially yogurt, is linked to low risk of diabetes. And all dairy seems to be linked to greater muscle mass and less fat mass. And those benefits seem to be really, again, unrelated to kind of the traditional fat or calcium or vitamin D content, but related to other things. For example, fermentation. Cheese is a fermented food, or probiotics in yogurt.
Doctors say nutrition science, like other sciences, is always evolving, but like your grandmother may have said, everything in moderation.